think that there is this culture in Plateau State where, to get married to a lady, you needed to build a house for the dad.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's podcast edition from Anapsified. And we have so many things to talk about today. We understand that the focus has always been on dreams, vision, and goals. We're going to be talking about them in detail. And I have with me here my honorable friend. He's a doctor, PhD holder, Mr. Shikudi DK. Do you want to introduce yourself before we move on?
Okay, so yes, I'm Chukudi Dike. Yeah, uh, my middle name is of no relevance.
Yeah,
Yes, so well, I work as an academic at
yeah.
the University of Kent, and yeah, that's mainly it. I specialize in economics, by the way, behavioral economics.
Okay.
But yeah, I have other side interests. So
What do you mean you
uh,
work in University of Kent? Are you a lecturer?
yes,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I am mainly on teaching and scholarship related contracts. So
Okay.
not really currently as much on research, but yeah, I teach mostly microeconomics and principle of economics.
All right.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Ben. Thank you for coming as well,
Mr.
Mr. Shikudi.
Mm,
Thank you for coming as well. I keep missing up that name.
yeah.
I don't want to miss
Or
that
just
name
use
anymore.
DK. At least,
DK is
yeah,
better. Yeah,
yeah,
DK
DK
is
is yeah,
better.
yeah.
Thank you. All right, we're going to go straight to the business of the day. And like we said, we're looking at those motivational factors affecting dreams, vision, and goals. All right. And my first question is simply want to understand, what do you think is the origin of motivation behind dreams, vision, and goals? What's the origin?
Okay, so just to be, to just add a bit more context in that question, we're
Yeah.
trying to understand if this is a more innate part of human
Mm-hmm.
nature, or if it's societally driven, if it's driven by external factors.
Mm-hmm.
And personally, my understanding is that it's a mixture of both, right? That humans, I think, different from many other animals, where informations are passed across through like genetic
Okay.
code. Humans, we pass information, based on teaching and putting it in as much information that the next generation can actually pick from.
Yep.
So we've always had this evolution where we pick things from things that either those who came before us have laid down, or those around us are actually nudging us to the direction that they are
Yep.
kind of pushing us to. Now, if we I think if we use from if I okay let me speak for myself. If I use from like a personal experience uh perspective,
Mm-hmm.
the more you become aware, as a child growing up, is to know that okay, certain things spur certain reactions from your
Yep.
parents. So if you did certain things, you got like nod of approval, and when you did not,
Yeah.
you so you start learning, that idea of right and wrong is actually achieving, or taking actions that lead to one or two goals, and
Mm-hmm.
what then becomes a goal would then be what pleases your parents at the time. That's
Yep.
how it starts initially, but then you start to go to school, you start to interact with people, and slowly, again, these ideas start to shape in. Remember, as a child, you don't have the responsibility of like putting food on the table or anything of that
Mm-hmm.
sort. All you are trying to do, in a way, is kind of just to please your parents, and in
Okay.
a way, get the most that you can get from them. So this is where the societal thing comes in.
Yep.
You innately know that pleasing your parents is the right thing to do, because the outcome of that
Mm-hmm.
makes you feel comfortable the most. And in order to please them, they have set certain targets. So you go
Okay.
to school, you must do well in
Okay.
your studies. So that becomes sort of an immediate goal. Some parents might even, maybe tip you, oh, if you get this particular stuff, I'm going to get you this.
Mm-hmm.
That sets a new goal for you.
Yep.
You're working towards that, by the end of the term, right? Um, so my point is that I think that's where we start to build from. Now, if we're linking these dreams and aspirations now to things like career and
Mhm.
where it actually takes us to as an adult, again, these factors are still very relevant. So you look at what there's a tendency to look at what your parents are doing,
Mhm.
especially if the way they go about it hasn't given you any negative impression.
Mhm.
So it's possible that you may have a parent who works in a certain career, and your perspective of you seeing your parents is that, oh, it feels quite fine.
Yeah.
They tell you that they're able to give you all this stuff because of what it is that they're doing. Now, maybe there's a little bit more challenge in that career, but
Mhm.
you don't know because your parents are giving you the impression that this is fine. They're kind of just, in a way, bottling it up, right?
Yep.
So it's very common to hear a kid form a career pathway based off that kind of
Mhm.
profession. If the parents are going along with it, very fine. Then it's like, yeah, why should I think of anything too different in a
Mhm.
sense? Now, but if, for example, you feel that let's say it's observable that among your peers, your parents are struggling the most with this, and it doesn't really look good, but they're kind of having to do it because they don't have a choice, and it's blatant.
Mhm.
Then there is the possibility that you may want to look for something else or step away from that immediate family circle and look
All
for
right.
a different purpose. Yeah,
All right.
sorry,
Thank
go
you.
on.
So, if I may get you correctly, you
Yeah.
say that dreams can be innate, or it can be learned through life experience or environmental factors as
Yes,
well.
exactly.
All right. But just to be specific,
Yeah.
is the pursuit of dream more about, because you talked about parents, all
Mhm.
right? But looking at it from that, is it more about personal fulfillment, or do societal expectation drive most people the more?
So you need to ask yourself what you
Mm,
want to get from societal expectation, as
mhm,
in, if you did a certain thing and
mhm.
you're concerned with the response of society, is because you think that that response puts you in a better place than you were before,
Yeah.
which is actually similarly to what you're doing with your parents when
Okay.
they're trying to teach you right or wrong. So yes, it is actually still personal. At the end of the day,
Hmm.
you want to be in the best position possible.
Okay.
Now, if you think that what you're doing, the societal approval might be what makes the difference between it being fine and
Hmm.
not being fine, then yes, the society then you know factors in there. But I was using the idea of parents because most of the times is that immediate. When
Hmm.
we talk of society, they are the immediate society that we
Mm.
have, and yeah, their approval kind of defines what it would mean for you. Uh,
All right. Now
yeah.
you talking about the societal expectation,
Mm.
all right, about dreams. Okay. Now, how do cultural or societal norms shapes an individual's dream and aspiration?
Okay, so I was giving the point that usually you see kids taking
Mhm.
ideas from what their parents were
Yeah.
doing and how they got by with it. And the if you think of culture, it's just the way that people live around you,
Yeah.
and that's partly how your parents are living.
Hmm.
So again, you have the tendency to actually draw from that. Now,
Hmm.
I said to you that if your parents were notably struggling with that, then you look a little bit more than them.
Yeah.
Again, it's still the societal culture that between people that are not your parents, those that seem relatively in a better place, what are they doing that you're not doing, and you might start to aspire to
Aspire
yeah
as well.
that direction. Yeah.
Okay. So sometimes these societal norms or culture,
Hmm.
it might have a way of influencing positively, and it also has the ability to limit
Yes,
your dream.
absolutely, absolutely.
All right.
Yeah, especially when the opportunities might be there
Yeah.
to get more, but there is already an existing norm that these are
Mm.
certain places that are, well, not seen as relevant. It may not even be that they actually talk you against it, but
Hmm.
it's not part of what they're putting forward to you.
Yeah.
It's not part of that your immediate environment.
Yeah. So it means that for people, less relating to our society, for instance,
Yeah.
for people, um, do you think there is, or what do you think might be what impact, if I may say, do social economic status? Because talk about the parent,
Hmm.
depending on what they're doing,
Hmm.
the child will follow suit and all that. So, what impact do social economic status and access to resources have on one's ability to pursue their dreams?
Yeah, so again, socioeconomic status actually determines who is and who isn't in terms of
Mhm,
culture and how how people engage.
mhm,
And the more you yourself are actually going through life, interacting with your peers,
mhm.
you would also discover that more than just what your parents do what from you, there's also the tendency that you kind of want to feel to be a bit in better in the pack, in the people
Yeah.
that you're growing around. So you start to see that link, that circle, and you start to judge your
Mhm,
parents again in that
mhm,
circle as well. So why I'm getting to that is that when you're talking about socioeconomic
mhm,
like status or success, is actually that people acknowledge that
mhm,
it has to be that there's a uniform acknowledgement that you are in this place.
mhm.
So depending on what it is, and that where your innate desire to always or at least to try to be in a better position
Yeah.
then fuses in with the fact that you have that competitive behavior within yourself, and even from people that you can look or that you look up to as well, in that sense of competition, it can then nudge you in the specific direction to take. Now sometimes this socioeconomic status actually is a function, like you said, of the resources that are
Yeah.
available to them. So if you think of a lot of cultures, especially before the Western system became
Mhm.
ingrained in those places, many of them actually had aspirations that were typically based on the environment that they
Yeah.
were in. So maybe you may have a particular where I think that there is this culture in Plateau State where to get married to a lady you needed to build a house for the dad.
Yeah.
Now, by building a house for the dad, they didn't actually mean like this modern type construction.
Yeah.
It's just your ability to use the mod and kind of put something
Mhm.
together. Do you understand?
Okay.
Like that was the the system. So I'm just saying that it these are loose practices that actually come from the things that where they're living, or that's the nature of which they're living and what they think they desire. So how can I use that to kind of get specific things? So it just sets a goal for the man that look, I need to be able to train myself such
Mhm.
that I can construct the house, and then I get this next goal. Or for which people have told me, or the way I see things, that is actually it should be a good part. Yeah.
So
So yeah,
okay,
go
so
on.
if you agree that socioeconomic factors
Mm,
and socioeconomic status
mm,
has an impact or as a way to impact their one's ability to chase his their or his or her dreams, or do you not imply that poor kids, those from the poor background,
mhm.
are at disadvantage and might not be able to fulfill their dream compared to somebody, a rich kid, someone who is born with golden spoon, or someone who has access to resources because of his or her parents' socioeconomic status?
Yeah.
Is there, do you think, following life experience, we have a lot of people who
Mm,
say they start from nowhere, they start
mhm.
from scratch,
Yeah.
and most of the people we have today
Mhm.
who are the richest people in the world,
Mhm.
none of them are from rich family.
Yes.
So does it have a way, the access to resources, does it limit one's ability to chase his or her dream?
Yes, it does. Though it takes different forms, I think, depending on the society that you're considering.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a part of my thought process that has been trying to process the UK system, for
Yeah,
example, versus, let's say, the United States.
yeah,
How they actually differ. So access to resources is a commonality, and I would explain a little bit how. But in the UK system, when you're talking about poor,
yeah.
what you're talking about is a class of people.
Okay.
So the UK is mainly split into the working class,
Yeah,
the middle class, right? And then by upper class, now I don't mean rich, specifically in terms of money. I mean the nobility.
yeah.
I mean, your those with your dukedoms, your lords. Now remember that I was saying to you earlier that those positions you cannot aspire to be them. A lot of them are actually hereditary. They pass down from
Mm-hmm.
generation. Part of the implication is also access to resource. It comes with that. But my point is that you cannot really aspire to be that. So if you were from the working class, from the poor class, and you're looking at like a lord doing something and having this sort of recognition, when you understand and your parents are saying to you that this is not something that you
Mm.
can even go down, it kind of shapes your mind in a
Yeah.
slightly different way. So where you can get to is that middle class, if you have enough exposure. But then what you're now doing in that middle class is that your role is to kind of get from that upper class and be able to keep the working class
Mm.
going.
Yep.
So the standard working class uh, British person, usually it's not like there again, it's not like there's no access to more,
Mm.
but the culture that has been formed around the working class behavior means that even just innately, not innately, I don't mean your DNA, but just growing up and the kind of things that that your parents talk about to you, the extent of pressure that they put is hardly existing.
Okay.
So they allow you to kind of get on with whatever it is that you want to do. Some parents might be, carry their children along in a particular profession, but you notice that those professions are not usually the high paying type. And the
Mm-hmm.
parents are used to it and they've put the children in the same mindset. Again, where society becomes a thing. So what the key point that I'm making to you there is that yes, usually in a poor setting, it might be a hindering factor.
Mm-hmm.
But if you think about poor in the United States, especially within the white community, just because you're financially poor doesn't mean that the general society and the way it operates means that even the poor aspire. Just that's just the way that society works, right? Even the poor in the US will are likely trying to drive themselves out of that spectrum. And again, I'm specifying with that class of community. We can come to other classes, but that's a different topic. But what I'm trying to say is that again, poor depends on the society, right? And that you aspire also depends on access to resources. So yeah.
All right. So